Today we're going to talk about how to trade using a trading list, MSP trading list, tips and tricks on how to take a trade. Once you get used to these steps, you could modify it on your own, but it is always good to have a checklist. So the objective is a trading checklist, and the skills that are required is pay attention to details, okay? So in the checklist, it says in order to trade, use many MSP ALGO alerts simultaneously. So that means at the same time. Okay, so the first thing on the checklist is you want to look for advanced warning MSP pivot algo alerts that can predict future price action. So it really depends on what you're doing. So we're going to look at a chart, and we're going to look and see if we can detect some pivots to detect future price action. So all that is saying is based on our other video on how to know what is going to happen in the future based on MSP algo pivots. If you didn't see that video, you need to see it. And what it does is it tells you the next steps. We know. So in this particular scenario, we got a step down pivot here. And we know that the first move is chop, right? So it chop and try to retest resistance. So the first move is chop. It's going to try to retest resistance. If it fails, it's going to pull back. If it does not fail, it'll break out. And then if it gets tagged, it's a short. So this tells you you're looking for a short, right? So that's the SPX. Let's look at SPY since that's closed. So I'm looking for alerts that tell me what the next move is. And we know the best was a step down pivot. So here's another one. From the past, we can see price was on a roll. It kind of peaked out here and pulled back, and as that process was going on, MSP pivot algo lime green tagged price. So we know that that means it's going to pull back. You could really trade these bot-like initially. So we know the first move's short. Okay, so we know the first move is short. We know that it's going to chop. So we know once it finds support, it's going to retest resistance. And if it cannot retest resistance and go above it, it's going to drop. Okay, so this is the extended hours. I mean, this is just regular hours here. So now it's the next day. Let's see what happened. So we could see that when this retests, doesn't matter what date, all the price action is the same. We'll go back in time. When it retests, we got a new step down pivot. We know it's a short up front. chop, long, it failed, short. So you knew 3 moves here. So why not time your trades with these moves? Okay? So let's go back to our checklist. Okay, so let's say we found a pivot algo that's going to predict future price action. Okay, so it says what is the MM's market maker's pin range to avoid for the day? So what does that mean? Let's look at the app. It said something about the cheat sheet. So we're going to look at the cheat sheet. And we're going to go to cheat sheet. And it says cheat sheet support resistance pin. So we want to get a gauge of what the market maker want to do for the day. It doesn't matter if it's a pin day or not. This is the an algo that is getting the range of. So we're gonna what price has to do for the day. It's a really good gauge to know if price gonna pop or drop. So let's say yesterday, as I see price, here go the MSP pin range algo here, and I see price was at 288.5, 288. So it said, telling me that most likely price is going to close outside of this range, whether it's above 288.5 or below 288. So where is price? Price closed at 287.38, right? So now I'm going to look at the chart at the day prior. So we're going to go to the day prior. All right. So this is a 1 hour. So the day prior, get rid of that. So the day prior is here. So that was yesterday, right? And we could see we got a new signal that's going to predict future price action. Drop, chop, retest, drop. Or sometimes it's just it can't really retest and it just drop. So the recommendation is just go short. Once it retests, once it start that chop, it's a short. That's one. Chop for retest. This is like you don't want to trade when the day is almost closed. But on this 1 hour, we knew that price was what? Gonna pull back and chop. We didn't know that. So we're thinking that price may eventually retest this 287 because that is the last support if it can't hold this chop zone, right? So we could see that this is looking bearish and it may pull back. And we know that these are the levels that the market maker say a stock's near support or resistance. So we know 289 is resistance. If we look at the cheat sheet, let's bring that cheat sheet back up. We can see that 289 was resistance, and we know that price need to close somewhere outside that range. In this particular case, it did get adjusted, and it kind of closed a little bit in that range, but it gives you a gauge. So what it told me was that what it told me was that most likely after watching the price action and seeing the resistance and the pivot, that most likely price not going higher than that 288.5. It's not going to be able to hold. Okay, so, and we can see that the trend is bearish, and you see we got that 289 call price here and the 286 put price, and we got our support resistance levels. But the only main thing we're supposed to be looking at is that the MSP pin algo to get the range of where price could close for the day. So that worked pretty well. It did normally it'll close out of it, but it worked pretty well because we was able to gauge based on that opening price that it wasn't going to go that much higher. So we knew it was a short, even though price is popping. So this is just a checklist we're going over. So that was let's look at the checklist. So that was number 2. Okay, number 3, look at measure move alerts it tells you what the last transaction was, and it also predicts that a spike is coming. And measure move alerts do the same thing on an intraday 10-minute. Okay, it does the same exact thing. This is just for the intraday 10-minute because we're talking about scalp trading. Okay, so let's look at that. So we're going to go back to the app and we're going to look for some measure move alerts, right? So we got SPY. You want to go to yesterday. Okay, so we could see that many measured move alerts came out. As they come out intraday, this is based on a 10-minute time frame. Okay, it's checked every 10 minutes. You don't necessarily, I mean, if you're scalp trading, you may want to use the 10-minute. If you're not scalp trading, you may want to use a longer time frame. But in order to see the normally what this does is a spike's gonna come, whether it's a pop or drop, and it normally does the same exact move. 1, drop. 2, chop. 3, retest that resistance for a breakout or breakdown. Once it retests that resistance for breakout or breakdown, that is the move. There's nothing easier than this, okay? We're not going to discuss this. This will be another time. We're just talking about when these come out intraday. And you could see, normally this says pop, drop, pop, drop. All right? You are not supposed to be just using the money flow for anything. Someone told me they traded with the money flow. I don't know why. What's the point of having all this for? Most people can't read the money flow. Human beings do not understand the concept of money flowing in and out and why. The money flows in and out based on support and resistance, and they cannot comprehend that. I've been had the service for quite some time. They cannot comprehend why money flow in and out. They think because they see money flowing in, that means that tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and that week later, it's going to be higher. They think if money is flowing out, it's going to be lower. That's not how money flow work. Money flow work based on support or resistance. So if you haven't seen the support or resistance video, you need to look at that. That's how you know. That's how you use money flow. Is price near support or resistance? Are they buying or selling? Okay. So this is not a part of the checklist. We're gonna go to. We looked at what the condensed. So we looked at this. And so if we click it for today, let's see if we got any. So we could see we got a measure move alert here, right? For today at 8:10. So price was 287.31. Let's look at the chart and see what that looked like. So that was on a 10 minute. So I'm going to change the time frame to a 10 minute. And we're going to look at 8:10. So we're 8:10. It's not there because this is in pre-market. So we're going to look at 8:10. So here go 8:10 right there. Okay, so we know we see prices near support at 8:10, and we see that there was prior selling pressure, right? So now we know that since price is not near the pivot, we know that most likely this is going to retest the lime green pivot. Make that attempt. If it fails, price is going to pull back even more, right? Or it may be easier just to look at a longer time frame and wait for the next candle to come out. Let's look at one from the past. So we removed all those drawing tools. So here go one from the past. Got a pivot near end of day. We know short. Chop. So we want to go long on that chop. We want to exit. I've got a new pivot. Gonna go long. You gotta act like a robot with this. It get tagged short resistance. If it does a little baby chop and don't pull back, you know to get out. You just got to move. Okay? So if you see it's holding, because sometimes it like to chop up here, it don't pull all the way back, that's fine. First thing is, when it get near that resistance, short it. Okay? Next thing is, once it finds support, whether it's up here or down, then go long, because you know it's got to retest this price point where the pivot came out. So this is on the 15th of August. We'll go in depth on this, but let's go back to the checklist. So in a nutshell, let's look at the 15th of August real quick. In the app. Okay, so we got a lot of information here. Okay, so we started getting information. So between 8:30, 9:10, 9:40. So we're gonna say at 2. We're gonna use an hourly for this example, even though we know this piece on 10 minutes. We're gonna say this 282.62 is where the price is closed at 8:30. So we want to look at the 9:30 candle. So let's go to that date. We want to use the 9:30 candle, which we're not going to be able to. Oh, this is good. 9:30 candle. So there we go right there, right? We just, because we're let's pretend you're a little bit on the slow side. So it's fine, because these are big moves. You don't need to be in the trade at the bottom or the top. Okay? So we got the 9:30 candle. Okay. So now we just going to wait and see what happens. Right? Because we know price could chop up and down. So this came out at 9:30. And now we see a gold pivot point came out. And we see prices holding. We could look at the app and see verify they buying or chilling to the money flow. But this is just another step on that checklist. So let's go back to the checklist here. So we looked at those measure move alerts, and we know how that works. It tells you what to do, right? It tells you what the future move going to do. So we have two things that told us what the future move's going to do, and so that was the MSP Algo pivot. So we want to look at the charts, screen out charts, hourly, 4-hour comparison. Could change those time frames. So, because we want to try to get bigger moves, okay, especially for people that do swing trading or longer trading. If you just do little in and out scalps, you may want to use a smaller time frame. Okay, so what's the next thing? It says where's support or resistance, so you know where to exit or enter a trade. So that means you got to know where support or resistance is at. And then it says watch the bot to see where the big boys are buying or selling, if they are creating an accumulation or distribution zone. So we looked at the 15th, so we're going to go look at the app, and we're going to go look at the bot and see what the bot say, right? So we got a lot of information here. So now we want to look at, you have to constantly make critical decisions every day, and that is where people are having a hard time, because it seems like in society they didn't have think out of the box classes, just had to be in sync with the herd. I'm showing you how to be in sync, be out of the box, be with the top 10% that move the market and ignore the other 90%. Okay? Because the future is not on the chart, but the MSP Algo is going to tell you how the chart's going to be drawn in the future. So we're going to look at SPY, we're going to look at the 15th, and we're going to look at a 60-minute, because we was looking at the 60-minute time frames, because 10-minute moved too quick for us, so we want to do 60-minute. And I believe we looked at, what about the 9:30. So here's we can see all the selling here, and so we kind of got an idea of what's happening. The trend is bearish, and the pivot signal says it met a pivot and is short, and price is pulling back, and the money flow is dropping, right? So then we got a fire alert. It says the big boys are prepping for a move right now. They're creating an accumulation or distribution zone. Here go a measure move alert. Measure move alert came out. Normally price gonna spike near this. You see the 280.61, you see it spiked to 281.47. Even though they sell, the market does chop up and down, so they buy and sell simultaneously. You got some set of big boys buying and some selling. So within our 10%, so we're going to say 100% of our 10% of the big boys with the money, the market making and institutional traders, are they doing more buying or selling? We can see all these red block shades. These people were dumping, right? So, and we could see that this is more like A. And then we had what, some momentum alerts. It's a pop to drop. And we could see where support is. Support is 282.2 to 283, and resistance is 283.5 to 284. Price broke support, so we know there's a breakdown here. So initially, price was at 283.55, near resistance, and they kept selling. You see what I'm saying? Eventually, we got a scalp alert there, but overall, we could tell what's going on. So let's go back to our checklist. So we could see where they were creating an accumulation or distribution zone, and we could see where support or resistance was. So let's go in and put some lines on our chart where that accumulation or distribution zone is being created. So let's look and see what time frame, what the price was. And it was 282.3 is where the accumulation or distribution zone is being created. And you got to understand what an accumulation or distribution zone is. If you don't understand what it is, and if you don't understand what support and resistance is, you're not going to be able to trade. So I do show a little horizontal line. I like mine to be pink. And I'm going to put the price of the alert and that was at what time? 10 o'clock. So we could see the 10 o'clock right here, right? 10 o'clock. Fire alert. 282.3. What does that mean? Accumulation of distribution zones be created. 9 times out of 10, we could already tell that's a distribution zone, right? Because it's pretty obvious. Because look, all is selling. So let's go back to our chart and look at the 9 to 10 candle. So it's about over here. So there go the so they were selling, so they were doing distribution in order to accumulate, because we could see that in time. That's why you could just wait. There goes the alert, and just wait. These are big moves. These are not just little intraday moves. These are huge moves. So you could just wait half the day and see what was going on. Sometimes it'll run right away, and sometimes it may chop. But we know how this do. You see what I'm saying? So how could you lose a trade? The only way you could lose a trade is because you don't have that checklist that you read that I created for you. That's the only way, okay? Not going to say you're going to win 100% of your trades. You should win 8 to 9 trades consistently. And like I said, Once that got tagged, automatically short that resistance and wait for that pullback. It may be a little bit, or it may be a big fat one. Wait for that pivot and just be patient. This is on a 60-minute. You don't have to be in these trades 100 miles an hour. It ain't gonna go nowhere. 9 times out of 10 rarely does it run initially. Rarely. So now we have confidence. So this is like 1430. Let's see what the app said. So we got our hourly. So see, you see it's starting to say it got the scalp. It's saying it was drop to pop. It's telling you what was going on. What was going on. Drop to pop, right? So now this is telling us what's going to happen in the future. But the only thing we see is selling, 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 selling. But after it told us at 2 o'clock, by 3 o'clock, we see buying, 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 buying. You see what I'm saying? Where are they buying on average when this came out? 281.2. See? Average buy price by the top 10%. Average sell price by the top 10%. So we could see that something's going on here because it's getting even. As here, it was a spread between the average buy and the average sell. Why is there average buy and average sell? Because they need to get in or out, so it'll chop a little bit. But anyway, so that is basically what this checklist is about. We'll go in and tweak it, add to it, or subtract from it. But right now, this is what we got, at least so you can have something just to get started. So when you taking a trade, and this is all I am doing, I am looking for advanced warning, future signals to tell me what's going to happen in the future, and then I look at everything else to help me get into that trade. Where is support? Where is resistance? So let's go back to our MSP trading checklist. Look for advanced warning MSP pivot algo. What's the market maker's pin range for today? So we know if it most likely going to pop or drop. Look at the measure move alerts to tell you the last transactions. It's going to tell you that the spike's coming soon. And as we could see, we saw that thing ran to the moon in the future, right? And we know we need to know where support and resistance is, and we can look at the app, and we base it on that accumulation or distribution zone that was being created. It's nothing easier than this. This is how you need to learn how to trade. This is how the big boys trade. You need to learn how to trade like them. You have to. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to succeed. Okay? So we drew our, we know they were creating a distributional accumulation zone. So we're going to draw a box around it. Well, because we could draw a box around it after we actually see what they're doing. And we just wait. We got a bottom, we got a top, and we just wait. Right? Another thing you could do, another thing you can do is do nothing and just wait for a breakout or a breakdown. Okay? So we know that this thing is chopping in this box. We don't know what it's going to do. We got a bottom, we got a top. When we get our breakout or breakdown, we want to base our entry on the second candle after the breakout or breakdown. In this particular scenario, we got a breakout. So the next day, it was a breakout, and this candle held. So now we're looking at trying to get into this trade, okay? Another thing you could have done is, we know that once this pulled back, this is a long. So we got to pivot. So we already know, even though the measure move alerts came out later on, we already know this move. So the measure move alerts are guiding us to know that, okay, that's probably the bottom of the box that they create, right? Before it's actually created. So that's what it would look like initially, right? So at that point, we know short. Short what? Short at 284.17, the pivot. Where's your stop? Above the pivot. It don't have to be really high. Probably just, 20 cents. If you get stopped out, then you was wrong. That's the great thing about knowing where to short. You know you want to short that pivot, and you know you can have like a 20 cent stop and be like dynamite. So you could just auto, like a robot, take these trades. Okay, so we short. Let's say we short. Let's go forward here. And it gapped down the next day. Okay, so we swung that. Okay, it gapped down the next day. Alright, I ain't getting out of my trade. I see a measure move alert came out. I don't even have support resistance on my chart because that app's telling us all we need to know, right? We know we don't want to go long that unless we see a new gold pivot. So we ain't got nothing to lose, nothing telling us to get out of that trade, right? So we gotta do forward on that. And we see it's holding. Now we got to pivot. See, we got to pivot. Okay, I'm a little scary trader. Let's say you're a little scary trader. No problem. Just wait for a breakout or a breakdown out of the accumulation distribution zone. Nothing wrong with it. If you got more experience, you may say, okay, I'm gonna wait and let's see if this hold. If this hold it at 280.6. I'm going to go long because I know this move already. Drop, chop, retest, right? Drop, chop, drop, chop, retest. What is going to retest? It's too easy. We know it's going to retest that thing right there. This is the easiest trading on the planet. The hard part is, and I still have issues, is when I get into a trade and I time it so well and it moves so fast and I got to double really quick. And I'm like thinking I'm still in this trade, wanting to stay in this trade. But you got to get out because you got to know what. Once a trader is going to try to break out. If it can't, it's going to drop. So we can still ride this trade. Nothing telling us to get out. We see our pivot. We got our stop 25 cents below this pivot. There ain't no better stops than that. So that would be 280.16. You want to try to take a trade closest to your pivots, whether it's a short or a long, and stop 25% out. And this is SPY, right? So you just got to do it. Where it's going to test? It's going to test at 284. Now, check out. You got to check out at 90%. It hit your target. I don't give a damn where this go. I don't care if it's going to 300. You're not going to survive unless you check out when your targets are hit or price is close to your target, okay? So let's say I had 100 calls. I sold 80. Now I'm waiting to see if that thing get tagged, right? That way I just exit the rest of my positions. Looked like an attempted tag there. It got tagged. I'm out. I'm out. I don't care what happens. It may break out. It may not. I don't care. It's not my problem. Now I'm thinking about a short at this point. If it can't hold, so now we know we got to retest that 284 where it broke out. See it holding at 284? Drop. Chop. Pop. Retest. Tagged. Short. Stop 25 cents above. Target 284.12. This last. Normally go a little below. It may, but we already short. We don't care. We got to be robots here. Okay, you got to be a robot. Okay. If it hold, you know you got to get out. You ain't gonna get no short all the way down there. Got to pivot. It says, get out. Get out. Chop. Retest. Pop. And that's all. So use the measure move alerts in conjunction with the MSP pivot algos. They both predict the future. You will be unstoppable, but you're not going to be able to do everything in one day. It's going to take time for you to get used to it. It may take you 30 days, 60 days, but once you get it, you're going to be winning 8-9 trades consistently, if not all your trades. Okay, so that is the checklist that we got. And go on and try it out, and as time go on we'll update it, but at least you got something, because it seems like when I tell the traders what to do, some when they're new they forget that there's a bot, they may forget there's a money flow, they may forget about the measure moves. So here go your package to riches. All right, and that's the checklist. So we looked at the checklist. We looked at MSP Pivot Algo. We looked at the charts. All right, so that's a wrap. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly videos. My next video I'm going to do is for swing traders using future moves, expected future moves, so that you can make big bucks swing trading. All right, happy trading.